So now we're going to do a shoulder piece, kind of like this guy here. I've got the 3 pattern pieces cut out, S1, S2, and S3. You'll notice on S1 and S2, it says LF, LR, RF, RR. That is short for left front, left rear, right rear, because you're going to be cutting 4 pieces out of S1 and 4 pieces out of S2 for your, if this is the right shoulder piece, you have your right rear, your right front, and then if you think of it as the left shoulder piece, you have your left rear and your left front. Same thing goes for these bottom pieces underneath here. For this piece right here, you're just going to have one for each shoulder piece. So it just says L and R on it. So we're going to cut this guy out of 2mm foam, and the 2 larger pieces are going to be made out of 6mm foam. You may have noticed that this shoulder piece is actually made out of anti-fatigue floor mats. So this is actually thicker than 6mm foam. So what we'll do is, after we get the new one made out of 6mm foam, you'll be able to see the subtle differences between making it out of anti-fatigue floor mats and making it out of slightly thinner 6mm foam. It'll give you essentially the same piece, but there may be some subtle differences, so we'll be able to take a look at that once this is done. So now I've got all the shoulder pieces for one shoulder cut out, and I have heat formed them. I've curved them out, each piece. So we've got the outer shell here, just like on this piece, and the inside piece here. And we've got the detailing right there. I also made sure that I put the marks along the edges here. So when I'm gluing them together across this seam, I'll line those up. Same thing with the underpiece here. So now I will glue these 2 pieces together and these 2 pieces together on the seam using the same technique that I used during gluing the chest piece together. Alright, so now we've got the 2 primary shoulder pieces glued together down the center lines. But before we put them together like this, we'll take this detail piece, which I've already laid up glue on, and let it dry, cure a little bit, and lay it onto the piece right here, just like on this finished piece. Now this piece is a little tricky right here when gluing this on. When you glue this piece on here, you're going to want to come out a little bit past the edge there. You don't want this edge, this bottom edge, flush with this edge here, because it won't cover up the edges over here. You'll see what I'm talking about when you cut out your own pieces, but you want to have it come down just a little bit low and lay it in place, and then slowly work your way out, sticking it to this side, both edges of the shoulder piece. And so once you've got this down a little bit past the lip here on the shoulder piece, the outside edge here, you will want to try and get that lined up. So you're going to have to stretch and pull this guy a little bit to get it to do it, but it is doable. So we're going to give it a shot here. Alright, so I've gently set it in place right now. And you can see you've got an overlap on the lip right here. And now I will slowly work my way out to get all this lined up along the edge here and glued into place. So there you go. Now you've got that detailed piece glued on. And one thing I did not state, but is an important piece of information. You probably noticed that I didn't lay any glue on this piece underneath there. Given the nature of this piece and how it works, you should be just fine doing a couple layers of glue on this piece and then laying it up onto this piece without having to lay glue on this also. So I'm just going to run my fingers over the piece just to make sure it's nice and secure. And I've got it running along the edge here. A little bit of the lip sticking out here, which is just fine. And now the next step will be to glue these two pieces together. Now on here you can set it up however you want. If you want it shorter or if you want it taller. But for here, I'm going to aim for from this edge to this edge. Basically, here, let me hold it this way. So from this edge to this edge, it's going to be about 3 1/8 or 3 1/4 inches. So I will lay up some glue on both of these pieces, on the inside here and on here. And just like with all other pieces that you're gluing together, I'll just take my time putting them together and making sure everything is lined up when I glue it. So I decided before laying down any sort of glue, I took both pieces and lined them up to where I want them to be when they're actually finished and glued together. And I took a Sharpie and marked out the edges. I also did it on the inside here. So now I know that this is going to be center. The pieces are going to be centered. And I will lay up glue only in these areas. So there won't be, it'll have as much glue as possible, and there won't be any sort of glue exposure on the outer area. Alright, so now I've got all the glue laid in on both of the pieces using the marks that I put in. The glue is tacky now, and I will use the lines that I put in there to line them up and carefully glue the pieces together. Okay, I've got it lined up. Now I'm gonna go in there and press down all the way through, making sure the pieces have a nice, strong bond to each other. And there you have it. So we'll take a quick look here. So here's the piece just finished using 6mm foam. Here's the piece that we used anti-fatigue floor mats, which are thicker. And that gives you an idea as to, they're pretty similar in shape. One's obviously thicker than the other, but you get almost the exact same piece using the different types of foam.
So when it comes to painting your piece, you'll have to do a little bit of masking to do the different colors. After heat sealing it, you will want to paint the whole entire thing with a flat black primer, and then mask off this whole area, this area, and paint this with whatever color you choose. I chose to do Duplicolor bumper coating dark charcoal right here. Once that's fully dry, then you'll mask this whole area off and paint this area. I used Rust-Oleum Paint and Primer in 1, their Carbon Mist, for this. And once that is all done, you are ready for mounting to the top torso base. So for attaching this shoulder piece to the top torso, it's pretty straightforward. You can just do a couple thin layers of glue on the top inside of the shoulder piece and mount it to the top torso. Or personally, I prefer to take a small scrap of foam, about 1.5 by 1.5 inches, and add that as a small additional gap in between the two pieces to create a little bit more flexibility and a clearer point as to where everything is all attached. But that is your call.